What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Simple restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. Y'all, if you create your schedule at your restaurant, bar, distillery, brewery, boutique hotel, if you have a hospitality business and you create your schedule in Excel or pencil and paper, give us a shot. Go to schedulefly.com, 30-day free trial. It'll make your life easier, and we'll take great care of you. Same thing if you're on an expensive, cumbersome employee scheduling software that has a ton of bells and whistles and features you don't use and you're paying a lot of money for it. We've got the same pricing we've had since 2007. So we're at schedulefly.com. We love to have a chance to serve you. We're also brought to you by Pop Menu and Kickfin, two great companies, and you're going to hear more about them in just a minute. But I want to tell you about this episode. This is a must listen, and this is part of a series that we're going to be, or it's part of a topic that we're going to be building a series around, and we're going to spend a lot of energy on in the coming months because it is such an incredibly important topic, and that's culture. And what type of culture does your restaurant or your hospitality business have? And is it a very clearly defined culture? And how much do you invest in culture, and how important is culture? Well, the Indigo Road out of Charleston, South Carolina, which has, I believe there are 31 properties now. Most of those restaurants now, a few boutique hotels. Well, the Indigo Road believes enough in culture that they formed a new position. And that position is Director of Culture. And that position is held by Chris Amato. He's been with the Indigo Road for 8 years. And just think about that for a minute. Director of Culture. That's a clear sign that one of the most well-regarded, fastest-growing hospitality groups in the country, Indigo Road, places massive value on the importance of having a clearly defined and curated and managed and fully embraced culture is part of the foundation of their success. This is a phenomenal conversation with Chris. We sat in down in Greenville, South Carolina, where they just opened 2 new restaurants, Indigo and Oku. It's right attached to the Courtyard Marriott. We went into a little conference room in the Courtyard and recorded this. It's a little echoey. Acoustics, and they didn't have any carpeting in there, I believe, and I should have picked up on that, but it doesn't matter. It's a minor blip on the radar for this episode. It's a fantastic episode, and you're going to enjoy this episode if culture is something important to you. Dave Nitzel, a friend of mine who's been on the podcast a couple of times recently, and we recently talked about culture. As he says, culture is the most valuable asset a business has, and I would agree with that. So without further ado, let's first hear from our Schedulefly partner and lead podcast sponsor, Pop Menu, and then we'll get right on in to this episode with Chris Amato, Director of Culture, the Indigo Road Hospitality Group. Pop Menu is, well, they're a partner of Schedulefly, and we have a lot of happy mutual customers. But Pop Menu is all about making your day easier and your sales bigger. They will simplify your marketing operations, bring in more guests, capture customer data for personalized remarketing to keep them coming back. With one super simple to use platform that integrates with most point of sales like Toast and Square and a number of others, Pop Menu starts with a beautifully designed, easy to update interactive menu that transforms the guest experience online. It includes a brand new website that's optimized for search engines like Google for no additional cost, automated digital marketing, online ordering and waitlisting, and you'll never miss another call with their AI answering solution that costs as little as 47 cents an hour. Check it out. Check out the link in our show notes. There's so much more in Pop Menu. Here's my 2 cents. I've talked to a lot of our mutual customers, and here's what they say about Pop Menu. Great company, great customer service, great product, great results. Check out Pop Menu and check out this episode of Restaurant Owners Uncorked. Thank you all for listening. We are recording. Super stoked to be here in Greenville, South Carolina. Wow, man, this is cool. I'm so excited. I'm with Chris from Indigo Road. It's one of the most well-known and well-regarded industry in restaurant groups in the industry. And Chris, introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Chris Amato. I am the Director of Culture for the Indigo Road. I have been with this team for coming up on 8 years. It's been a good run. I began my tenure back in Atlanta, which is still home for me, as a server at Oku, on the opening team over there, and had gone to school for restaurant management, culinary arts, was very focused on progressing through the ranks and landed with Indigo Road and really saw a lot of opportunity for myself and was very supported by my leadership and felt really at home. And so just over the years kind of took the necessary steps and spoke to the necessary people and made some great progress, and have now landed myself in what feels like a really important role. And yeah, just happy to be able to help out wherever I can.
Well, I have so many things I want to ask you about culture. I think culture and creating a great, clearly defined, executable culture is it is the differentiator these days. You have to do it to be successful in this industry and to grow. And it's important in any good business, in any successful business. But it's something that I'm seeing a lot more of in hospitality. People that are really figuring out how absolutely critical it is to have and to own the culture and have the right people leading the culture. But before we get into that, I got to ask you, so you went to school for this, but where did it all start? How did you, what got you into hospitality initially?
The first thing that comes to mind is we were the household when I was a kid that hosted all of the family parties. It was mom in the kitchen making dinner for all of the relatives, and we were like the party house. And so I think it was just kind of ingrained in me from a really young age, and I had a lot of fun. I used to help my mom and just entertaining people and caring for people. And those people were my relatives, of course, but it felt very natural to me always. And so, I mean, truthfully, as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be in food specifically, and didn't really know much about the hospitality side of things, but was very determined to own my own restaurant one day and go that route. And so followed that dream, went to college, Johnson & Wales in Providence, Rhode Island, and very quickly realized that I was not meant to be in the kitchen, and made my way out into the dining room and joined, that team, and it's been great ever since.
Did you work in any restaurants before going off to college?
I served very briefly in high school, okay. But didn't really resonate with me too much at the time. I think I knew I wanted to be in F&B and wanted to be in hospitality, but I think it was just the place. It was a small town, just a restaurant in the small town, and so did that for a little while, and then got into a kitchen when I was in school, and yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
In Nutley, New Jersey.
Okay.
Little town, maybe 25 minutes outside of Manhattan in North Jersey. So spent a lot of time going into New York. My father lives just outside of Washington, D.C., so had a good amount of exposure to some really good food and, some city life.
How'd you make your way to Atlanta?
So when I graduated, I was looking to leave the Northeast. Spent most of my childhood and young adult life in New Jersey and then Providence, and wanted to get away but not go too far. And so truthfully, myself and two friends just picked a place to go and landed in Atlanta. And there was some little bit of the motivation there was that I knew Atlanta was a very up and coming food city, had some really great restaurants. I remember I have this very distinct memory of being at my dad's house in Virginia and seeing this Bon Appetit magazine, and this restaurant called The Optimist had just been voted best restaurant in the country. And that was months before I moved down there. And I remember thinking, that's great. That's a city I want to be in. That is a restaurant I want to be a part of. And I actually joined that team when I moved down there. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the Indigo Road.
Yeah.
And just just for folks that aren't familiar, just give us like a little quick summary of Indigo Road and where y'all started, where you are now.
Yeah. The Indigo Road is an incredible hospitality group now. We started as a restaurant group. We are based out of Charleston. Hospitality now because we have introduced hotels as of a couple years ago to our portfolio, which is pretty awesome. But our roots are in F&B. Based out of Charleston, at this point, we are in 9 or so different cities, maybe even a few more. Charleston, Charlotte, Atlanta, Raleigh, just all over the Southeast. We have some pretty phenomenal concepts, mainly our Japanese concept, Oku. We have a couple different Italian concepts, Indigo and Coletta, and then Oak Steakhouse, which is really the flagship. So that was our very first restaurant in Charleston, was Oak Steakhouse. And so a lot of those repeat throughout the Southeast, like I said, but we've also got some great one-off concepts, and there is a lot of growth in our future. There has been a lot of growth in the last couple of years. That's the Indigo Road. How many
locations now?
Sitting at about 30, right at around 30, yes.
And then how many will we have 12 months from now?
I would say close to about 36. Yeah, this year alone, there is about 3 more openings planned. And then we've got, let's say, about 3 or 4 next year.
Now, you've been here for a little while. Are you at all the openings?
Yeah, at this point, as much as I can be, given that they don't line up simultaneously, which we have lucked out they have not. But yeah, that is Atlanta's still home for me. Yeah. Spending some time in Greenville right now with our 2 latest openings. So I will be actually headed home next. Indigo, Atlanta is our next venture. So
you get to live at home while I
get to go home, and it's right around the corner from my house, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me what does it mean that you are director of culture here?
So it's a new position for us. This is something that is obviously important to us as an employer, which is why my role even exists. Super flattered and humbled to be able to kind of spearhead that position. So we're still figuring some things out, but what it means to me and what it means to Steve, our founder, it feels like a hybrid of education and support. That's what I kind of think of when I think of my role. So the education component in, whether that's training new employees, doing these restaurant openings. I also work very closely with leadership, which I think is what the kind of the core of being this director of culture is working with leaders to better support their teams. And we have these ideas, we have these core values, these things that we believe in. Now we have a better structure to enforce those things or ensure that they're, being acted on. And so I think what the goal is to just work alongside these people and support and empower, and make sure that they understand why we believe in these things, what they mean to us, and how we can best exemplify them for our teams.
What are the core values?
Okay, you want me to run through them?
Yeah.
We have got act with integrity, pretty straightforward, do the right thing, work collaboratively, which is teamwork, leave a lasting impression, which is probably my favorite of all of them, because I think about leaving a lasting impression, it's definitely directed towards our guests, of course, at both the restaurants and the hotels, but I also consider leaving a lasting impression on our teams. I think that making an impact on the people that work for us is super important to me. We have show compassion and empathy. So we use this phrase, it's escaping me, I'm sorry, but giving like the charitable assumption. Yeah. So not jumping to conclusions, right? And trying to best understand a situation before we make a judgment call. So that's what I consider when I think about show compassion and empathy. Another is enrich your community, hugely important to Steve. It's become very important to all the rest of us, giving back to the communities that we are a part of. And what else? We have practice humility and transparency. So being humble in our work and being willing to take criticism, and then being transparent, whether that's leader to leader, it's peer to peer, whatever. We believe in open door policy and all of that. And last but not least is embrace positivity and have fun at work, kind of another combo. So obviously very straightforward, but it's important to us. We understand that in restaurants, 90% of the people that are working for us, it's probably just a job to get by for right now, but we want to be a really great employer for those people. And part of that is just having fun.
Yeah.
Just having a good time.
Yeah. Love that. You nailed it, dude.
I'm glad
On
I
the
got them
spot.
all.
Yeah. Okay. So you have these core values.
Mm-hmm.
How many employees do we have now?
Just above 1,500.
Okay. So I get a job here. I come in. I'm onboarded. Is part of that my training is learning the core values?
If we are doing our job right, absolutely.
Okay.
We have a poster. We've got the core values in this phenomenal graphic that is hung up in every one of the restaurants, behind the scenes. And yes, it is getting printed out, and it's in somebody's day one binder, so that it's one of the first pages, one of the first things they're seeing is on paper. This is who we are, and this is who we want to be for you, and this is who we're asking for you to be for us as well.
Yeah. And how do you? Is it some like do you? How do you reinforce these values?
Great question. I think
you come in and you learn them, and I know that they're acted upon, and I'm sure your GMs all know them well and lead by example. But if I've been here a little while, like, am I continuing to hear about them or?
Yeah. So we believe a lot in further education. That's something that's super important to me as well. But so we do our pre-shift meetings, right? We've got these meetings that happen. Maybe it's 30 minutes before we open the doors to our guests, and we will work in things like, of course, we talk about food and beverage and the reservations we're expecting for that night. But yes, incorporating culture, some kind of culture conversation into a daily meeting is incredibly important, I think, to keeping it like fresh on the mind, right?
Yeah.
Because yes, it's one thing to have a poster up on the wall, but it's another thing to have a poster on the wall and then to actively be talking about it.
Right.
And so that is, yes, part of my job is reminding leadership to do that, to live it and breathe it. I think I even will crack jokes sometimes about the values, because I think it can be, I don't think it's cheesy. I think if you think they're cheesy, they can sound a little cheesy, but when you actually believe them and you try and execute them and just abide by them, everything falls into place. So,
I think that core values come off as cheesy when they're just a poster on the wall. I've been like, when I got out of college, I worked at the bank. They had core values. I'm young. I'm like, oh, core values. I even did we had like a group meeting or whatever and a team meeting, and we all had to present about something. I'm like, I'm going to do the core values. Mm-hmm. And the eye rolls and laughter I got. And the reason is because they were just a poster on the wall. They weren't reinforced. They weren't something that, the leadership embraced and, lived by and led by. That's when it's cheesy. And that's when everybody's like, yeah. But when it is reinforced and when it is talked about in pre-shift, that's when it becomes something where people are like, okay, they're serious about this. And then they want to get behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we do these openings, I am the one who's in front of the teams, the dining room teams at least, teaching them. And it's awesome to get to share these things with them. And I make it important to them. I think that's where there is success, is getting the buy-in, right? So it's one thing for me just to preach about it, but I want you to understand it. I want you to understand why it's important to me. And then what is great for me is, a week into training or so, Steve comes by and some of our other awesome leaders, our senior leaders, and they get to interact with these teams and they talk about it too. And so then it's just reinforced, I completely agree. I think that it's important. Yes. If it's just an image or an idea, that's when it starts to fall flat. But I think where we have found success is actively coaching it, teaching it, speaking on it, and just living and breathing it.
Yeah. Well, look, your position speaks to how much the company values those core values. That is your culture.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm trying to remember how when I saw director of culture, because I just was, that's awesome. It's not a common title, but I think 5 years from now, this is important. Like, it's
Totally.
really, because you mentioned it, like, and here's the thing. 9 out of 10 people probably come here thinking, I just want a summer job, or I just want to make a little extra money to pay for. But I think that and I've learned this over the years of serving restaurants and meeting folks like Steve and you and so many folks we've had on this podcast that I get so inspired by. And when you take a company like Indigo Road, that is a wonderful growing business, this industry can lead from I just want a summer job to now I'm making good money and I'm having fun and I'm treated with respect, and and I'm living these values that are making my job and then my personal life even better, and then I'm getting promoted, and I like the sky's the limit when you work with a group like Indigo Road and so many of these other groups around the country. That the great thing about this industry is you went to culinary school, you knew this is what you wanted to do, and you had a very clear path. But those 9 out of 10 people that come into it, most of them, they could come from anywhere. Mm-hmm. The industry's so amazing because it doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, anything, your background, whether you went to school or not. Like, are you going to come here, embrace our values, take great care of customers, work hard for the team? Hey man, you got a job, and you got opportunity, and you belong, and now you're part of the family. And it is I love the industry for that, because I feel like it is the most diverse meritocratic industry where it's like we don't care who you are, where you're, like, none of that stuff matters. Like, you went to culinary school, great, just take care of our guests, take care of each other, and do anything you want.
Show respect. So there is a part I'm like picturing the poster in my head, and there is above the values, there's sort of this overarching theme, and it reads, everybody has a seat at our table. And that's been something that, wasn't plastered on the original when we came up with these a couple of years ago, but it has definitely become a huge part of what we believe, because I think you just completely summed it up. This is a very interesting industry in that regard, in that it's like we are going to be willing to take almost anyone.
Right?
Like no bias, just we want the right people. And that sort of speaks to our hiring mentality as well. We believe, when I sit down in an interview with somebody, I'm looking at the person they are. That's what I'm trying to get to the core of. So make your way past the experience and whatnot. And of course, we love experience. It's great. It'll get you far. But are you hospitable? Are you engaging and just genuine and friendly? Like that's what we are looking for. And that's top to bottom. I mean, that is a GM versus a server, whoever. We want the same person at their core. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and if you've got that, you can do anything in this industry. And I think that, look, I mean, it's always been this sort of 90% are going to come through. I feel like the industry has a great future with this next generation. I think that people more and more, they want to work somewhere where they feel valued. Mm-hmm. They want to work somewhere where they feel like they're making a difference. And frankly, there's so much automation with technology and AI, and like there's things that maybe people would have gone to college for in the past that, that maybe there might be fewer jobs in the future, and then it also might free people up more for leisure time and going to restaurants. Mm-hmm. I think that this industry has groups like yours that really get it. You have there's just so much future to attract and keep really, really good people, and take people that maybe didn't think this is what they wanted and turn it into like, this is a freaking incredible career. All right, y'all, time for a little mid-episode break to talk about Kickfin, our mid-episode sponsor and a great business. Thousands of restaurants, bars, and breweries use Kickfin to tip out their employees instantly, no cash required. With Kickfin, tips go directly to your employer's bank of choice the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem, because if you're still paying out credit card tips in cash, it's costing you. Time-consuming bank runs and cash counting take managers away from work that matters. Cash is hard to track, which leads to accounting headaches, and it creates the perfect opportunity for theft, human error, and compliance issues. Bottom line, there's never been an instant, secure way to pay out tips until Kickfin. It's an easy-to-use software that sends real-time cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Kickfin gives managers hours back in their day, makes reporting a breeze, and protects your business from risk. Most importantly, employees love it. Restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds. No hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Visit kickfin.com for a personalized demo and see how restaurants across the country are digitizing tips with Kickfin. That's what they like me to read. I will tell you this. I know the folks at Kickfin. Check out the episode with Brian Hassan, the co-CEO of Kickfin, was on here on the podcast. Great people, love what they do. They treat their customers well. We have mutual customers that love the product and love the way they, the relationship they have with Kickfin. So check it out, link in the show notes, and let's check out the rest of this episode. For example, before we started recording, who do we talk about? Wilson Brannock and John Murray, who you know, who worked here, who did great here. They've now gone. They've started their own business in Nashville. You know, you guys still know and love them. They still know and love you. I had them on the podcast. Yep. They talked about how much they learned at Indigo Road. It's a great thing. The industry always supports, and I'm sure Steve all the way down supports people going and doing their own thing.
Absolutely.
And, you know, taking your values. And I mean, it's a cool thing to see.
It is. I think you make me think about the folks that maybe don't know that this is going to be for them. That's something really special to watch. And I think as an employer, if we are the one that kind of wakes that up inside of someone and makes them realize, like, maybe this is where I belong, maybe I should be in the kitchen, or I've got this, you know, knack for just taking care of people, that's pretty awesome. I mean, there's not much of a better reward than that. And we so strongly believe in internal growth. I am as I shared earlier, like I am a representation of that. So many of our leaders, the gentleman you just mentioned, I mean, starting as servers, bartenders, line cooks, and being able to make, you know, your way to a director role, for example, it's pretty awesome. And it's because we understand that if we're cultivating the right people, then they're going to make us better, right? So
that's right.
We are gonna, no matter where you start, if you are the right person and you're looking out for us and we're looking out for you, we can only get better.
Yeah. I mean, I have 3 kids. My oldest is 19, and then 16 and 14. And I'm always like, you got to go work for restaurants. You got, and you know, my daughter took a job. I won't mention it. It's just the wrong. Like, there's just not a lot of that, because I want her to. Like, I think she would love being at a place like one of yours, where, like, you know, and maybe my son will be, you know, I just think it's such a cool, amazing career with so many great people. Totally. And genuine people. And what's so great about hospitality people is, I mean, this is all about people, you know, that enjoy welcoming you into their home, like your family did. Like, that's what this is. Oku is your home, and Dako's your home, and you're welcoming people in, and you want them to feel warm and happy, and, you know, eat well and drink well and enjoy themselves and be taken care of. And so people that do that all day, that want to do that, that's a good group of people to be around.
Totally. You make me think about one of my interview questions. It's an easy one. It stumps people sometimes, but maybe it's easy to me. But it's very simple. What does hospitality mean to you? Because yes, this is the F&B industry, but it is simultaneously the hospitality industry, at least what we do, right?
Yeah.
I've had many conversations with people about what we do extends so far beyond just putting a great plate of food and a nice glass of wine in front of somebody. There is so much. So this is my answer to the question is it's an emotion.
Yes.
There is so much emotion in what we do. And again, that could be really cheesy to somebody who doesn't understand it or feel it if you don't make it important to them. And so we start that at the interview process, stressing the importance of connecting with guests, connecting with your teams, just how important all of that is.
You know what? People will not forget how you make them feel.
One of Steve's favorite quotes.
Oh, really?
Oh, Maya Angelou, yep. Yep.
Yeah, is that where that's from, Maya Angelou? Yes.
Absolutely. He quotes it all the time. He says it, every time we do an orientation at one of our new restaurants, it's people will forget what you said. I'm paraphrasing, but they will not forget how you made them feel.
Because that's an emotion, and that's raw, and that's
Sticks
core,
with you.
and absolutely. You got to get the food, get the food right. But there's a lot of restaurants that have good food. There's a lot of restaurants that have good ambience, but it's people, and that's why I just think this is such a. This is about people. That's what this industry. That's what culture is. It's about It's about people. It's an industry that's about people, and it's about making people feel really happy and welcome when they leave. And they're like, God, that was really cool. Mm-hmm. One of the examples that we talked about again before recording is calling people the day after.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that? That's
pretty few and far between. I think I have never dined as a guest somewhere and then been reached out to by that restaurant the following day or the day after that. Never. Not once. But how impactful can that be?
And it's amazing too, because if you think about it, you should, because guess what? Somebody came into your restaurant. Like, they got a lot of choices. That's low hanging fruit, right? Yep. Like, they came, all you got, do something different and unique. Hopefully you made them feel great. And if something didn't go right, you want to know.
Yes.
And you can correct it, and then you can learn from it, and then everybody wins.
Right. Especially because I think for the potential negative feedback, somebody's not always going to be willing to speak up about that in the moment, and that's totally understandable. Maybe you're not able to express yourself in the moment if you had some constructive criticism for that restaurant, but maybe over the phone the next day you're able to communicate that a little better. And then if our teams are doing their job, where, again, jumping back to the values, we're showing compassion and empathy to that guest over the phone, and we're trying to remedy that. Yeah. So maybe that means bringing them back around for a better experience, or whatever the solution is. But yeah, I think, we try so hard to connect the day of, and that goes well beyond our leadership. We we ask our teams to connect on a deeper level. So how are we, and that is our culture too, right? Our culture is internal. We talk a lot about internal culture, but our external culture to our guests is meaningful connections. So one example, we use OpenTable as our reservation system, and every one of our properties is linked. So what that means is I go out to eat as a guest to Oku, Atlanta, and the service team there does a phenomenal job, finds out something about me that is going to benefit, let's say, that guest, me, in the future. We add that to that guest's OpenTable profile, and then I'm the guest. I go to Oku in Charlotte, a year later. That information is still in there and can probably be used to better that person's experience next time around. So it's cool. We try and learn about people to then selfishly make their next experiences that much better.
Not selfishly, man. It's a gift to the guest. If I go to Oku in Atlanta and then I go in Charlotte and
you're acknowledged for something.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, we know you enjoyed this sake when you were in Atlanta. we've got that bottle. Would you care for us to crack that open for you? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I think
So
as a guest,
differentiated, man.
Yeah, to experience that and be like, oh, y'all have got this down. Like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool.
And then they roll up in the hotel up in the don't y'all have some freaking awesome hotel up near Asheville or something like that?
So, well, that's actually the Asheville Hotel is one of our next projects this year. So it's the Flatiron. It's this old historic Flatiron building in Asheville. It's going to be pretty awesome with a few different F&B concepts, but gorgeous building, Italian restaurant. There's going to be a speakeasy in the basement, rooftop bar. It's pretty great. I was out there with the team maybe 2 months ago when we did a site walkthrough. Super excited about it.
Where is the Flatiron?
It's just downtown.
Downtown?
Yeah, I don't know Asheville all that well,
Okay.
but it's kind of smack dab in the middle of downtown.
But is there a hotel somewhere there, like outside of Asheville? Or
We have got the Skyline Lodge.
Skyline,
Yeah,
yes.
that's going to be in Highlands.
That's in Highlands,
Yeah,
okay.
Highlands. And then we also have the Snowbird Lodge, which is in Robbinsville.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are these like old school lodges that y'all are?
So Snowbird, yeah, and I'm going to fumble on the year, but Snowbird has been around for a while, and we just recently acquired it, and it's been awesome. We had a great meeting out there last year and just got to experience the place for what it is and why it's been so successful for so long, and it was like pretty magical to be out there. So hotels, like I said, are still new to us, but we're getting our feet underneath us for sure. And there's more to come, more projects. This Flatiron is going to be pretty awesome. Skyline is great, super beautiful, kind of mid-century feel to it, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, has that one been around for a long time too?
A couple of years.
I mean, but had the hotel? It's like, you didn't build it, did you?
No, we did not. But I'm not sure about the year on that.
What was okay? Yeah. It looked like kind of a retro. I don't know.
It's kind of motor lodgy.
Yes. That.
Yeah.
I stayed in one, and it was in Jacksonville Beach a few months ago.
Okay.
But it was like a old U-shaped, one floor, like motor lodge type place.
Exactly,
This young couple came in, like renovated it. It's like kind of like it's very well appointed, but it feels like you're like some of the it's like kind of like retro 1950s or 60s stuff.
Taken
it's
back
like
in time
super
a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, it was like really unique. Yeah, I like that. I like that style. Well, okay, yeah. So Asheville, that's a great place. They there's you may be familiar with these folks. They've got a place in Charleston too called the Restoration.
I believe I've heard of it.
They're in. They got a cool place in Charleston, and then they opened up one in downtown Asheville.
Okay.
And I stayed there about a month ago. Right there.
It's a hotel, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is almost across the street from the.
It was an old bank building, and like the first floor had been a bank, and then it's a hotel now. Cool place. But,
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I have a memory of being on the rooftop of the Flatiron and somebody pointing out the Restoration Hotel, which I want to say was a couple blocks away.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you want a lot of good places down there in downtown Asheville like that. So, well, man, y'all have just. I can't figure. I mean, it's amazing how you're able to grow the pace you are growing and just keep nailing it and getting it right. Impressive leadership here. Impressive management group.
Yeah, we're trying our best. We, like I said, focus as much as we can on internal growth. And so when we're able to identify these people that want to better themselves and then in turn will, be better for us, we're going to work on that. We're going to hone in on that and see where is the best fit for that person and how we can help them grow and go from there. Obviously, we bring in some folks from the outside, like we just talked about, and pretty rigorous with our interviewing, especially when it comes to leadership, just to make sure that it really is the right person. It's because and what does it all go back to? It goes back to that culture of just wanting the right people. And you have, 1,500 employees, like I said, looking at only a fraction of that's actually leadership. And so there's a lot of pressure on us to get that leadership portion right.
Yeah.
And we might fall short sometimes, but we actively are trying to make sure that those people are the right people.
Yeah.
Always.
So you come into a market like Greenville, growing market, a lot of good groups here. Your places here, just incredibly
Yeah.
well up, just beautiful.
They are.
What was in this spot? Is this a redeveloped area? Or?
This was one restaurant. So it was it's called Nantucket Seafood by a guy named Rick Irwin.
Okay.
I'm not super familiar, but was a pretty successful restaurant, I think, for a while. So we have the two restaurants that are divided by a lovely wall.
Huh?
Yes. And so imagining that being one restaurant, and like as an operator myself, I am glad that we did not go that route.
Not bad.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we opened Indigo about a month ago, and it's been great. It's incredibly busy. Oku has just been open now for about 5 days. Yeah. And is just following suit, is also quite busy. And these, two gentlemen, GMs here, new to the company. It's why I'll stick around for a while and support them as much as I can, along with some of our other leadership that we've got brought in from other places, just to make sure that everything is going the way that, we need for it to go. But they're beautiful. And this is a new market to us. So these are our first restaurants in Greenville, and we have been really welcomed by the community. It was pretty cool from the hiring perspective. I wasn't really sure what to expect, so I came out and assisted with some hiring, and I was very pleasantly surprised, and we've locked down some really great people for these teams.
That's awesome, man. I love that outdoor bar. Is that your?
That's us. It's beautiful.
It's really cool,
It's
man.
a beast, but it's beautiful.
I've been to several of your places. Been in Charlotte, seen these, been in, we filmed down there at Indigo years ago. Your design is really, really well done.
Yeah.
Who does that for you?
So we have an architect that we have worked for, a designer we've worked with, for a while, David Thompson. Does some pretty phenomenal work. Yeah. And what's cool about these too, and I think I mentioned this to you before, is so this is Oku number 8, and this is Indigo number 3, with Indigo number 4 coming soon. They just change a little bit as we go. So you mentioned Jacksonville Beach. Jacksonville Beach was our latest Oku to open, so it was February of last year.
Oh, you were down there too. Golly.
Yes, yeah, that is as far south as we are at the moment, but we're going to be exploring some more of Florida with some different Okus in the next year or so. But we had opened 6 Oku up until Jacksonville, and they all were comparable in design and whatnot, dark, kind of sexy, maybe some neon, and then Jacksonville Beach, that didn't make sense. Obviously, I was not a part of the design at all, but I understand completely why, it's airy, it's beachy.
Yeah.
And David and the team just did phenomenal. It's this beautiful, bright, light wood, blues and purples, and gorgeous. And so then this one in Greenville is a complete departure from really any of the rest. And so it's cool to watch these places, the spaces themselves change as we move through. Open up more and more, but what's happening inside remains the same. The same level of dedication and the quality. My God, the stuff that these teams put out is pretty awesome to not only be able to enjoy as a guest every now and then, but be able to very proudly serve to these communities. So
you mentioned you hiring people here and bringing people in, and you talked about you're really trying to see what's in here.
Yep.
As in their heart and in their soul. So I'm the right person. I've got the hospitality gene, but I don't have a lot of experience. Tell me about the training how do you train somebody up? If let's say it's a server.
Yeah.
How do they learn to be a server?
So this just happened. Being a part of these 2 openings, there was a few interviews where I would walk away and, I'd go reconvene with that GM and say, that person is exactly who we want. That person's an all-star. And this is no hate to a fast food or anything, but they've only ever worked at a Wendy's.
Yeah.
I love Wendy's, so I'm not.
No, I'm with you, man. I got you.
And so it's just a different challenge. But I think what we go back to is we believe we can teach you all of the technical stuff. It might take you a little bit more time to grasp or to, to pick up on these nuances, because it's a lot. And we know it's a lot. The service standards that we uphold and the techniques that we use, all of these things, there's a lot. It's a lot of steps, but when it's executed well and it's done by that right person who's got that heart for hospitality, it's like this beautiful, seamless thing. So, I mean, to the question, I just think a little bit more focus on those specific individuals. Like I said before, it's great if you have both the experience and this hospitality gene. If you don't have the experience, we're just going to work with you that much more closely, try and support as best we can. Because I would rather dedicate more time than it might take typically to getting the right person where they need to be than hiring the person who has the experience but doesn't quite have that heart. Because I don't know that I can change that. You can work. Yeah, you can. I'm trying to be optimistic here.
Yeah, you can't. No, flat out.
I can work on that with you. I can try and coach you. But at the end of the day, you're either hospitable, genuine, kind, approachable, all of those things, or you're not. Yeah. And so I am more than happy to dedicate my time to teaching somebody the technical if it's the right person.
There was I watched that show called Mad Men, and I remember there was this quote that really hit me, where Don Draper said, "People tell us who they are, but we ignore them because we want them to be who we want them to be." And, that can be subconscious or conscious. I mean, a lot of times it's just like, you need to hire people and you want somebody in there. And, if you take the shortcuts, it winds up coming back around. But people, I don't think people are, if they don't have it, they don't have it.
Yeah, and we know that all too well. That is somewhere where most of us probably could do a better job. Is the restaurant industry, we got hit, right? We got hit, and we have done our best to recover, and things are getting better and better and better. We're feeling, better about the talent pool and all of that, but we have definitely fallen short in bringing on people just to fill a position because we were so strapped, But you feel that, and when it's not the right person, immediately, and your team knows immediately, and it's hard to bounce back from that sometimes. And so again, we focus so much. I feel like we keep having these reoccurring conversations about hiring correctly. Yeah. And it's just because it is so important, and we want to uphold and protect this culture. That's something that Steve, kind of a term I've heard him use a lot, is like protecting the culture. Because when you have it and it's good, it's so good. Yeah. And then you run the risk of if you do have somebody come in that doesn't quite fit that, hopefully we're working on that as quickly as we can to just keep things where they need to be.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about some of your tats there.
I've got a slew of just random things. An Alice in Wonderland quote was my very first when I was 18. Okay. I've got a lion on my hand. I am a Leo. It's not exactly why I got it, but Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I saw it. That's why I had to ask. I thought that's what that was.
That's him.
Yeah, really that's great. So cool.
Phenomenal movie. I like plants, so I've got some plants. I have my favorite drag queen's signature on my arm. Yeah, so just kind of chipping away slowly at some tattoos, and maybe a sleeve one day if I ever get around to doing some more.
Well, it didn't sound like you have a lot of time for going and getting tattoos lately.
Not too much.
Well, anything else? Is there anything else we didn't talk about that you would like to talk about?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like we've covered it. I think it's really great. I want to say this in the most humble way, practicing humility, but I take myself out of the equation. And when I think about the Indigo Road and this position, I just think it's cool. Yeah. I don't really have a better word for it than like, I think it's really cool that we're doing this. And, you mentioned something earlier about this being not the most common thing right now. I make jokes about my position. Like if I introduce myself to someone new and I'm like, I'm our director of culture, and I get this look of like, I'm proud of it, don't get me wrong, I think it's great, but I get this kind of confused look, and I'm like, it's a funny title if you don't really know what it means. But then when I explain it to someone, they're like, that's cool, like that. So it's important to you, meaning the Indigo Road, that much that there's someone that now is meant to oversee this sort of thing, you know? And so I think it's really great. I really believe in what we're doing, and I'm just here to help our leaders and get them to believe and just, you know, create some really great experiences.
Look, so a buddy of mine, Dave Nitzel, he and his partner, Dave and Dave, they go by, but they wrote a book called Hospitality DNA. It's a new book. It's fantastic.
Okay.
And had Dave on had both of them on the podcast, and then had Dave Nitzel on separately talking about culture. And I mean, he'll say straight up, like, culture is the number one asset a business has, you know, plain and simple. I mean, and that's not just how it's really any industry. If you invest in the culture, the returns are massive. If you really invest in it and really believe it and do like what y'all are doing, have somebody that actually owns the culture for the organization. And I mean, that's fantastic. So hats off to your group, to Indigo Road, to Steve and the team here. Love what you're doing. And I want to brag on you, because you're a freaking busy dude.
Sure.
And I didn't know. I emailed you. I'm like, hey man, you want to be on this podcast? And you're up here. You've been up here for 2.5 months opening restaurants, and you were like, yeah, I'm a little busy till like the day y'all, you're like, I'm a little busy, but then after it should open up. And then so I'm in Atlanta yesterday, and you're like, well, look, I'm in Greenville, but if you're there, I'll drive down tomorrow. And I'm like, well, he's gonna drive. I'm coming through Greenville. I'll drive there. I know it's home. My point is, like, this is like that's what hospitality is. That's it right there. Like, you're taking the time to even reply to my email and then try to work it out, and then you're willing to come to. You got all this crap going on, folks. Like, there is hospitality exemplified. So I'm going to brag on you, because I think you deserve it, because I think that's where I'm like. That's why I love this industry, because people do stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So thank you.
Hopefully natural. You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate it. For those of you listening, thank you. And I want to get other people from Indigo Road on this podcast. So we'll talk about that. I think y'all have so many great people. So anybody else want to share their story, I'm in.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all, before you sign out on this episode, a couple of quick things. Number one, if you listen to us on iTunes, if you could give us a star rating and a comment, it would help so much. Same thing if you're on Spotify, follow us, or any platform that you're on. If you would just do whatever their rating or follow options are. What that does is it tells the algorithms that this content is good and meaningful and valuable, and it'll tell them to put it in front of more people. So thank you for doing that. If you take the second to do that, that'd be so awesome. And also, if your restaurant is either using Excel or you're using some software that's expensive and has a lot of bells and whistles you don't need, or maybe doesn't have great customer service, we'd love to take care of you at ScheduleFly. Simple, easy restaurant employee scheduling software, legendary customer service, 30-day free trial, schedulefly.com. My cell phone number's on the trial sign-up page. Thank you for listening. See ya.